Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon and good evening, depending on where you're joining from. Thanks for taking time out of your day to tune into this session about deploying insights to everyone in your organization with Amazon QuickSight. My name is Quentin Alsbury. I'm a product manager for QuickSight, and joining me is Jesse Gebhardt, who's our lead business development representative from QuickSight, and he's going to be doing a demo for us later in the session. So we understand that there's a mix of people on the session. There's QuickSight customers, there's people that are new to the product. So we're going to try to give a little bit of an overview for those of you that aren't familiar with the service. And then we're going to talk about some of the new features and functionality that we've added to QuickSight in our latest release about 10 days ago. So first off, what is QuickSight? So the way we talk about QuickSight is that it's a fully managed serverless cloud business intelligence system. So when you look at the entire portfolio of the AWS database and analytics stack, QuickSight really fits in at the top of that stack as the last mile business intelligence solution that AWS offers to enable you to take all the data that you have inside of AWS and turn that into insights in the form of dashboards and reports that you can deliver out to anyone in your organization that needs access to that, to do analytics on it, to track metrics or any of those things. So we now have services that allow you to collect data, to move it from one place to another, databases to store it and process it and manage it. And QuickSight really gives you now a native AWS solution for taking that data and transforming it into consumable content for power users, for analysts, as well as for simple report consumers and people that need to interface and interact with dashboards. So when we talk about QuickSight, there's really four pillars of why we built QuickSight and the value that AWS can bring to the business intelligence space. The first is scalability. So QuickSight is built, as all AWS services are, designed from the ground up to scale with you and with your needs. From whether you're delivering data to 10 users or to 10,000, QuickSight grows and scales with you with no additional infrastructure for you to provision or to manage or to worry about. It just grows with you as you go. The next is that QuickSight is a serverless and fully managed solution. So on top of that scalability, there is no part of the QuickSight platform or solution that you actually need to manage or to update or migrate or to keep track of. You basically create your QuickSight account and you're off and running, and we take care of everything else. So it scales with you, and there's really never any management that you have to get involved in the underlying infrastructure of your QuickSight deployment. Thirdly is the ability to pay for what you use. It's a very AWS concept where we want to make sure that when you're using QuickSight that you're not paying for parts of the service that you're not using. So first and foremost, as a SaaS application, you can pay monthly or annually for that depending on what fits your needs. And now we've announced a completely additional pricing concept with pay per session pricing for people that are interacting with dashboards and reports on a purely usage-based model. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. And lastly, the QuickSight is a fully integrated solution, meaning that it connects to all the relevant services inside of the AWS ecosystem to allow you to build a complete end-to-end BI solution, from data collection to storage to auditing to provisioning users and managing your users. QuickSight's integrated with all the relevant AWS services, and we continue to add more integrations as is necessary, and what we're hearing from customers to give you a out-of-the-box integrated solution with the rest of the AWS platform. So starting off on the QuickSight's ability to connect to data. So while QuickSight has a heavy emphasis on making sure that you can work with the data that you have inside of AWS, including both native AWS data sources, but also third-party databases that you may be hosting on EC2, there's also a continued expansion of different data sources that you can work with QuickSight. So that begins with even data that you have on premises. So you can securely connect to on-premise databases and use QuickSight as a cloud BI solution front end to that on-premise data even before that is migrated or makes its way into AWS. So if you're just getting started on your cloud journey and you haven't necessarily brought your all of your data and migrated that into AWS, you can still get started with QuickSight and use that as a BI front end to that data, even if it still lives on premise, while getting all the cloud benefits, the scalability, the usage-based pricing, and all the other benefits of QuickSight, even if the data is still on premise. And just a couple months ago, we released a pretty decent package of application connectors, meaning that you can now also use QuickSight with other third-party applications, meaning if you want to connect to your data, your Jira data, GitHub data, you can connect directly to Twitter, data from ServiceNow, and build dashboards and reports off that data directly in QuickSight. You can do that as well. And we're continually adding support for new data sources, so this list will only continue to grow as we go forward in time. So one of the big things that we've strove for with QuickSight is to make sure that we have a solution that covers a wide variety of use cases. So when you think about BI and you think about the different types of users, there is no singular user type for BI and analytics products. There's actually at least 2 or 3 different types of users. We want to make sure that QuickSight has the functionality necessary to support each one of those different types of users in one singular solution. So you're not forced to use one application for these users, a different solution for these users, that QuickSight can really give you everything. So QuickSight supports the self-service data discovery user, the people that you want to give the freedom to be able to connect to data, that are the more power users. They can get in there, they can create their own charts and do their own analysis on data that's been set up for them and made available to them in a governed way. We also want to make sure that QuickSight is a very fast and efficient and robust authoring tool for people that need to create reports and dashboards for an audience that's going to be really more of a consumption audience that are going to interact with reports and dashboards, but are never really going to get in, start with a blank canvas and connect to data and do things on their own. And then lastly is that data consumer who needs an easy and efficient way to access all the relevant data and insights in the form of dashboards, reports that they need to do their jobs and make decisions in an optimal way as they're going through their daily workflows. So instead of having a set of different tools or platforms and applications for all those different use cases, QuickSight really is one self-contained hosted application where you log into a browser, and if you're that self-serve user, you start off on that journey and you can go through that entire workflow of connecting to data, creating your own analyses, et cetera, and doing that ad hoc discovery process, as well as if you're a dashboard consumer and you're just connecting and looking at a report once in a while. QuickSight really is one singular application that supports all of those versus having a desktop application that you download if you're a self-serve user or a creator, and then a server or a web-based login if you're a publisher or a creator, as well as a consumer. Instead of them going to one application, going to Excel for one thing or opening up a PDF over here, they can have one central place where all of the data that they have access to is available to them in a really beautiful, elegant, interactive, secure fashion. And lastly, because QuickSight is an AWS service, there's a lot of effort that we put into that to make sure that it's enterprise ready from the get-go. So just natural things that you would expect from an AWS service, making sure that it's secure and has all the requisite compliant certifications, making sure that QuickSight is available globally to all of our customers. So it's not just a North American hosted solution, it's available in a lot of different regions, and we're continuing to add to that list. If you're a large organization and you have different teams and divisions scattered around the world, you can decide where data is hosted in the different regions that we have available. So we, as an AWS service, we're on a constant evolution, making sure that QuickSight is available across all of the relevant AWS regions. And we continually add more support for that as we go forward in time. And lastly, again, as an AWS solution, it's extremely redundant. So you don't have to worry about the system going down along with in the same way that all AWS services have that expectation. So now we're going to move over into what's new in QuickSight and what we've been working on, really focusing on the release that we announced about a week or two ago. So since QuickSight launched in November of 2016, we've added almost 65 new features to QuickSight. That's a little over a new feature a week. So the team has been extremely busy in listening to our customers, understanding where the needs are, and evolving and enhancing the product. That rate is only accelerating. And the great thing is, as a SaaS application, there's no upgrades to install when we launch a new feature. You don't have to go through a migration process. Those features just show up and become available in the product for you to take advantage of the day that they're launched. So the big announcement that we made a couple weeks ago was, one of the things we've been hearing from our customers is, because of those fundamental value propositions of QuickSight, its scalability, the fact that it's fully managed, and the fact that it's deeply integrated with AWS, really makes QuickSight an optimal solution for putting data out into the hands of really everybody in an organization, in a way that doesn't incur a lot of overhead from a infrastructure management and cost side, because we handle all of those things. So what we hear from customers is the dream of being able to put actionable, secure, connected, and refreshing data that's relevant to every single person inside of an organization's specific job. The dream of being able to do that with a high-end BI solution is very close to being realized because of the way that QuickSight is architected. And really, the last thing that was missing was a way to do that from a pricing perspective, and with a pricing model that made sense for the realities of how people across an organization interact with data. So as we all know, there's some people that are power users that are going to be doing self-serve data discovery. If you're an analyst or a data scientist, you're in there on a daily basis and you're digging deep, and you're creating data sets and constantly active in this. But then you can go to the other side of the spectrum, where you have a user who maybe all they need to do is look at a report once a day, or maybe even it's once a week or once a month. And instead of having to choose between paying an exorbitantly expensive ongoing license for those two users as if they were exactly the same person, what's been missing is a way to price the way that each one of those users actually interact with the application. So what we announced a couple weeks ago was what we call pay per session pricing for readers, people that read and consume dashboards and reports. And this is a very AWS concept to bring a pay for what you use model in the same vein of what you do with EC2 or pretty much any other AWS service. Is you should really only be charged when you're actually using the service. So the way that pay per session pricing for readers works is that when you have a user that all they'll ever need to do is consume and interact with reports and dashboards, they're never going to create, they're never going to do self-serve data discovery. You can basically designate them as a reader inside of the QuickSight application, and they'll only ever be charged when they log into the application and they interact with a report or dashboard. And we do that by timing from the moment that they log in and basically charging you for a half-hour session. So if I log in on Monday morning to look at my weekly report, and I open that up in QuickSight and I spend 20 minutes looking at it, that costs 30 cents. And if that's all I do for the rest of the month, then my cost for that user is only 30 cents. So anytime a user logs in and interacts with their content, they're being charged 30 cents for that half-hour session. The session is not active if they leave that browser window and they walk away from their desk and they go to a meeting for 2 hours and they leave that window open. They're not being charged because they're not actually interacting with the dashboard. It's only when they're interacting with it are we calling that a session and charging that 30 cents for that half-hour session. And the great thing is that while that guarantees that you can enable your users, and you're only paying if they actually use the content, they're actually engaging with it, there is a potential for that to run away, because you may have some users that are extremely active one month but then not active the next month, and it makes it really hard to model out your costs, especially if you're a large organization and you're talking about thousands of users. It's really hard to predict who's going to use what when. And to help protect against that, we've actually, on top of the pay per session pricing, we've also added a cap. So once a user reaches $5 worth of usage in a month, worth of sessions, they basically have reached a max cap which means that anything after that is basically unlimited usage. So the maximum you will ever pay for one of your users that is consuming and interacting with dashboards and reports is $5 a month, even if they're logging in every day and using the application all day. So on the low end, if a user doesn't log in at all during the course of the month, you pay nothing for them at all. There's a zero upfront cost for that user for the month, not an ongoing monthly license fee, whether they use it or not. If they don't use it, you don't pay. And if they do, you only pay for the part that they use up to the maximum of $5. And if they're hyperactive during the course of a month and really interacting with a lot of data, the maximum that you'll ever pay for that is $5 a user a month. So what that gives you now is it really enables you to create this flow of data out to everyone in your organization. You can freely create the reports and the dashboards that need to be out there in the hands of the 50 users or the 10,000 users, and you can really kind of let your imagination run about what data would augment all the different users and personas that you have inside of your organization and give them secure, interactive access with really fast performance to these dashboards where they can drill down, they can filter, engage with all of the features that QuickSight has for navigating and exploring and digging into data when you're looking at a published dashboard, but only pay for them when they use it. And at the same time, you still have the full authoring side of QuickSight for the users that need to get in there, get into data sets, do their own self-serve discovery, et cetera. And that's all contained within the same application and just defined by the role that you give to each user. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jesse, and he's going to walk us through a demo that shows this and some of the other new features. We're going to talk about the paper session pricing and how you designate users as readers or authors. We're also going to talk about the GA of the ability to connect to data in private VPCs, as well as our secure connectivity gateway to on-premise data. We also released Tokyo as a region. So again, as I said, we're constantly adding new regional support across all the relevant AWS regions. We've also added the ability for SPICE datasets. If you're familiar with the product, SPICE is our in-memory calculation engine that allows you to bring data from your underlying sources and have that cached inside of the SPICE engine. So when all of your users are interacting with dashboards, drilling, filtering, that SPICE is handling all of that workload and shielding your underlying data source. That's part of that scalability element that QuickSight has. So you can now have those data sets that are in SPICE refresh hourly. We've also increased the data set size limit on SPICE data sets from 10 gigabytes to 25 gigabytes. So there's a pretty significant jump there. So you can now, in a singular data set, you can pull in up to 25 gigabytes in a SPICE data set. And then there's some additional features that we've been adding to make the dashboard experience and the content that you can create with QuickSight richer, more interactive, and more functional for your end users. And Jesse's going to show us all of that right now as we go into the demo. Jesse?
Yep. Great. Thank you, Quentin. And I believe you can see my screen right now. So hi, everybody. My name is Jesse, and I'm very excited to lead you through a live demonstration of QuickSight. So we're going to look at it both from the perspective of an author user, as well as from the new reader user, who's basically the large audience of users who would be consuming these dashboards. So in this demo, we're going to show connecting to data. We're going to build an analysis from scratch. We're then going to publish that as a dashboard and then show how we can share that out with a number of readers as well. So on my screen, we see as I log as an author, I have the ability to see analyses as well as dashboards. If I want to start a new analysis, so we're going to start completely from scratch here, I can either use an existing data set or I can create a new data set as well. So just to take a look at what the new data set screen looks like. So on this screen, we see all the different types of data sources that QuickSight supports a connection to. So everything from uploading a simple flat file to connecting to other applications like Salesforce or Jira or Twitter or ServiceNow. Lots of AWS data stores like Redshift and RDS and Athena, but lots of non-AWS data stores as well. So if you wanted to connect to your on-premise SQL server or Postgres or Teradata database, you have options for all those different sources. So I'm going to go back to my existing data sets. So you can think of these as a nice predefined governed set of metadata that an analyst could take this and run with it and create some new ad hoc analyses from. You notice that some of these have an icon that says SPICE on them, and some of them do not. So the data can either be imported into SPICE, which is our in-memory hosted database, or you can do direct connectivity to whatever that underlying data store is. Some of these data sets also have a little icon on here saying that there's restricted access to it. So on this particular one, we have row level security enabled. So what that means is that when any user uses this data set, even if they're an author or if they just wind up consuming something that author has created via a dashboard, they might see different data when they get to that exact same object. So picture a dashboard where you maybe have different sales reps and they see just their own accounts when they get to that dashboard. Or a customer-facing dashboard where you show different customers different data when they get to that same dashboard. So row-level security is a great way to do that. If I select one of these data sets, it will give me some options in terms of if it is in SPICE, I can choose to schedule to refresh it. As Quentin mentioned, with our latest release, you can now schedule it down to every hour. And these data sets can be up to 25 gigabytes in size. So this one's on the smaller side. I have a couple in here, which are multiple gigabytes, and these can be up to 25 gigabytes in size. So I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to say that I want to create an analysis from it. So once I choose to create an analysis, if the data is in SPICE, it'll show me that, that it's fully imported. And then on the left-hand side, I see all the fields from this data set. To build visualizations, the easiest thing to do is you can just leave it on autograph here, and I can select fields that I'm interested in. So for instance, I'm just going to pick a number here, like my sales figure. I can format that however I'd like as well. If I wanted to see this trended over time, I could go select a date field. And while it's still set to autograph, notice QuickSight actually changes the visualization type depending on what type of data you're using. So in this case, it changed it to a line graph because it knows that we're using time. I can expand this and see a broader range of data. So we're at the daily level at the moment. And maybe I want to roll this up to a higher level, such as monthly. I might want to slice this by some other fields in my data as well. For instance, my customer segments. So now I can see a trend of my customer transactions over the last 4 years or so, split by different segmentations of our customer base. So here's our first visual. Let's add a second visual here. And in this one, let's do an example of how you can set up a drill down in any one of your visualizations in QuickSight. So I'm going to again start with one of my metrics. And this time I'm going to slice it by industry. So in this data set, I have a natural hierarchy where I have customers who are grouped into industries, and then those customers also buy products from me. So I have this hierarchy where it goes industry to customer to product. And I'd like to allow my users to be able to drill up and down through that hierarchy. So what I can do is take my customer name field, and if I drag it on top, it'll replace the field, but if I drag it just below, it says that I can add a drill down layer. And I'll do the same with my products and add another drill down layer. So the visualization doesn't look much different right now, but what has happened is that when I go to share this with other users, as they select any of the bars in this chart here, they will now have this option to drill down to another level. So in this case, I would focus on finance. I'm looking at just my financial customers, and then I could select a customer and see what particular products they've bought. So this kind of drill down functionality you can use in any visualization and is a great way to build more interactivity into it. Let's go add another visual. Maybe this one will be more like a simple KPI metric. So I'm going to take my sales and I'm going to say that I want to group it by date. So this will automatically create a comparison where I can do a year-over-year comparison. So I'll resize this, relay this out a little bit. So what this is now showing me, if I change it to a yearly level, is my year-over-year change, my year-over-year performance. You can format any of the visualizations, like for instance on my KPIs, I like to show the progress bar here. So this can show me what this line represents my last year's performance, and then the length of the bar is this year's performance. So I'm actually about 20% higher than I was last year. So one last example just in terms of another visualization type, and then we'll talk about other ways that we can build more interactivity into this. So we know that a lot of our customers and your users are familiar with looking at things in tabular views. So maybe that's a pivot table or it's just a normal table visualization. So rather than using autograph, I could specifically tell QuickSight that I want to make a table or a pivot table. And in this one, I want to show some very granular information. So I want to see all the way down to the transaction level. I want to see every single order, and I'd like to see what date that happened, and maybe who is the customer, and what product did they buy, perhaps some metrics associated with it as well. And you can see that I've got a nice detailed table here on the bottom. So these tables support pagination. You can go up to 10,000 records per page. If you have more data than that, it will paginate to page 2, 3, 4, etc. for as much data as you have. So one of the newer features that came out in the last release was the ability to make drill through actions. So there's a couple different use cases of why I would do this. One would be I could drill from one QuickSight dashboard to another QuickSight dashboard and send some filters as I do that drill through. So for instance, if I had a different dashboard that had similar data, but I wanted to go drill down on my tech industry or a specific customer, then I could set a drill down to do that. Another use case for this is to open other websites. So you can open any URL and actually plug elements from the data directly into that URL. So just as a quick example here, I'm going to create an action where we can go launch that customer's web page. So I'm going to say C, and you can insert items from your data. And then the actual URL, and this is kind of a simple example. I'm just going to use the customer's name and add .com after it. So imagine this may be opening another custom application or links to a product page from your website. This can really be any URL that you'd like. So here I have my new URL action. So this will also be available to my end users when I go to publish this dashboard. But for instance, if I wanted to take one of these customers, maybe let's choose Aetna as an example. As I click on any of the rows here, I have this new option where I could say, let's launch their web page. Let me take this out of full screen mode in just a moment. So as that's launching. So I tried it with Allstate as well, and you can see here that it went and triggered another web page to open. So again, this is one use case, but another very common one is to link from one QuickSight dashboard to another QuickSight dashboard, but be able to pass some filters along with that. One last thing that I'll highlight before we talk about sharing this is a new feature called parameters. So parameters, lots of different ways that I can use these. A very common use case for them would be to add a number of controls across the top of my dashboard, maybe a series of drop downs that may act as filters. They may allow the user to change what field is being used in a particular visualization. You can use them for what-if analysis. So there's lots of different use cases for parameters. We're going to do an example of using it as a filter. So I'm first going to create my parameter, and then I'm going to say I want to go add a control for it. So this is just what the name of the control is going to be. I'm just going to call it segment. It represents my customer segments. And I could say, should it be a free-form text box, or should I make it a drop-down menu? And if I do want to make a drop-down menu, should it link to a particular field from the data, or do I want to enter some specific values? So I'm going to say I always want to link it to my segment field so that they're constantly synced. So now you can see that I have a control that I've added here, which has my different customer segments. So I mentioned there's lots of different ways to use this parameter. One way would be to use it in a filter. And the nice thing about doing this is that it actually would work across different data sources as well. So if you had maybe one chart that was connected to a Redshift database, this one might be just a simple Excel file. Maybe this one is connected to an on-premise Teradata instance. Each one of these visualizations can be connected to a completely different data set, and these parameters will work across all the different data sets you're using on your dashboard. So now my control will affect all the visualizations. So you see I only see one line here in my customer segments. My KPI has changed, the numbers as well. And another nice thing about this is that you can actually control it in the URL itself. Oops, let me go back to that. I lost my address here. So I can say, let me show this dashboard where segment equals SMB. And we'll actually load the dashboard with that filter state. So this is a little bit of, if we wanted to use this in combination with the URL actions, those drill through actions, I could take this URL of one of my other QuickSight dashboards and insert some dynamic values into it. All right, so we've got a quick dashboard here. We've built some actions, we've built some filtering into it and some drill downs. So at this point is when I want to go share this with some other users. So I'm going to come up here to share and say that I want to publish a dashboard. So I can give it a name. Or I can replace an existing dashboard. And after I give it a name, I can choose what users I want to share this with. So for instance, if maybe you're using this internally within your company, you would maybe hook this up with Active Directory, and you could share it with any Active Directory groups or individual users. Doing it by group is quite common. I'm just going to choose one of my users here to share it with. So my user Sue, she is a reader. So I'll show you in just a second the different types of roles you can assign to your users. I also have an option where I could share this with all the users in my account. So if you have some dashboards which maybe have some metrics that you would like everybody to see, rather than adding all the groups or individual users, this is a nice quick way to share it with everyone. Great, so Sue is set to be a user of my dashboard here. And let's say I wanted to go add some other users and invite some more users to my account and share that dashboard with them. So if I come here to manage QuickSight and I'm over here and manage users, I could say, let's invite someone else. So I want to invite Sally as well. So I'm just going to enter her email. And then here is where I get to choose what type of role Sally should have. So should she be an admin where she can actually invite other users as well? Should she be an author where she can create data sets and create dashboards and share those with others? Or the new reader role, where I'm just a consumer of dashboards. And I can still drill down and I can filter and I can use those actions. But essentially I'm just consuming things that other folks have shared with me. So I'm going to set Sally as a reader. invite her as well, and then I could go back and share that dashboard with her. So so far what we've done is everything from the author, from the analyst perspective. We've connected to data, we built a dashboard, and we shared it. But now what we're going to do is we're going to go log in from the reader's perspective and see what that looks like. So I have this in another browser here, and this time I'm going to log in as Sue. Excuse me. And I had a number of other dashboards that I had already said share with all users. So when Sue logs in, she automatically sees all of those. But here we can see our new dashboard, which was updated just 2 minutes ago. Also notice on the top, the reader user only sees the dashboard tab. So they don't see any options to manage data or to create an analysis. It's a very simplified view, focused just on consuming dashboards. And as I visit this dashboard as Sue, notice that I can still use all of the filters and parameters. I can still perform drill down through that hierarchy that we had created before, and any other kind of interactions that we had designed into this. So just to kind of complete that circle, right? We logged in as an author, we built a dashboard, we shared it out with a number of readers, and then these readers, you might have hundreds or thousands of these in your organization, or you could have as little as 5 if you need it. And then these folks can log in and consume your dashboards without having to worry about the complexity of everything underneath it as well. So that completes our demo today. I think I'll kick it back over to Quentin, and he's gonna wrap up with some final slides here, and we'll take questions as well.
Great. Thanks, Jesse. So that was a quick look at an overview of QuickSight, covering some of the new features that are now available as of a couple of weeks ago. You saw Jesse in the demo changing the roles between an author and a reader and showing the difference in functionality that those two different roles offer. And again, that reader role is the foundational element of the new pay-per-session pricing. So when you bring users in, they'll automatically come in as readers unless you change them to authors. And that'll give them the ability to access published content, the dashboards, et cetera, and interact with them. And then again, that is automatically billed by us just directly onto your account. So when a reader logs in and they access the dashboard, and you saw how Jesse was interacting with that dashboard and doing drills and filters as a reader, those are what we consider the interactions. So once they start doing that, that's when we charge that 30 cents for a half-hour session. And as soon as if they stop interacting with it and they leave that window open and they go away, we stop charging them after 30 minutes once that session has been filled, unless they come back and they start interacting with it again. So again, there's a lot of different user scenarios where some users are very active. They have a lot of different reports and dashboards. They're active in them. And again, a session is not tied to a particular dashboard. A session is just being active as a reader in the QuickSight application. So if I am one of those users that has 5 different dashboards and I log into the application and I'm interacting with a variety of different things, I'm not charged any differently. It's just about being active in the application for that 30-minute session. And again, those users that are highly active are still not going to spike your costs because of that $5 a month cap, where once they hit that, you're basically at an unlimited usage state from that point on. But again, if I only log in once a month and interact with a report that somebody sent me for 15 minutes or a half hour, my cost for that month is not a $15, $20, $30 a month license. It's 30 cents for that month. So you could literally provision your entire organization of users at no cost up front, and you will only ever pay for them when they are active in the solution in the way that we described above. So just to provide some more clarity on that, and again, this is talking about how QuickSight connects to both data inside of VPCs as well as the data that you may have on premise. Again, that is something that we put into GA a couple weeks ago. So now with the QuickSight Enterprise Edition, you can connect to your data, whether it's in private VPCs or on premise, in a very secure and direct fashion. So to go a little bit deeper onto the pay-per-session pricing, so this is available in the QuickSight Enterprise Edition. So the way that the pricing breaks out then for the Enterprise Edition is for your authors, those users that are creating content or that need to be enabled with the ability to do that self-serve ad hoc data discovery and self-serve BI flow. They are charged at the existing monthly rate of $18 a user a month when you're paying annually, or it's $24 a user a month if you're paying that month to month. But now we have added onto the Enterprise Edition the concept of the reader role. And again, you saw how Jesse went into the admin panel, and you have control over there to designate which users are readers and which users are authors. And again, for those readers, they're charged 30 cents a session, and a session is a 30-minute active session inside of the QuickSight application. It's not specific to any content or dashboard. It's just active in the application for a half hour, up to a maximum of $5 a user a month, after which they are basically in an unlimited usage state. So when you really do some modeling of this, and you can go to the QuickSight pricing page at quicksite.aws/pricing, and you can see some more breakdown of this. If you think about how this bears out across even a small organization or a really large organization, the potential cost savings here of enabling everybody with QuickSight so that they can have access to these interactive, secure, connected, refreshing dashboards is pretty dramatic. So if you look at, for example, if I have 50 readers inside of my company, so 50 people that are going to be interacting with reports and dashboards, and you break them out into buckets of activity of who's going to be active, users that are active very frequently or 2 times a day, users that are active a couple times a week, and users that are active 2 times a month, which is a very common breakdown in different users across an organization or across a team. And you look at how that pricing cascades. For 50 users, what you're really talking about is $110 a month with that breakdown of different levels of activity and different levels of usage. And you can model this out on your own in your own context about around how many users fall into which one of those buckets. But the total cost for 50 readers on an annual basis is about $1,300 a year, which is extraordinarily cost-effective in terms of the ability to get that data out into the hands of all those users and to enable them. And then the cost savings there only increases as you scale to larger and larger and larger user bases of readers. So again, you can look at that that 5,000 user model down there, where you can see that the total cost for 5,000 users active on a connected cloud-based BI solution with all of the features and the interactivity and functionality that it offers is $87,000 a year in total. So just to do some comparisons with some of the other leading analytics solutions, the cost savings can be quite dramatic when you utilize this new reader concept, and especially when you use it at scale. But as Jesse said, it's also very cost effective when you're talking about 10 or 20 users. If most of those users are not the creators and the self-serve power users that are going to be in there doing a lot of creation and activity in the application, when when the users start to trend more towards the reader side of things, even in small numbers, the cost savings becomes pretty dramatic. So again, this is all in the QuickSight Enterprise Edition, and the QuickSight Enterprise Edition has some of that additional functionality for managing a reader audience. So there's been some questions about Active Directory. Jesse showed that you can share content with groups, the ability to publish a dashboard and share with everybody, more administrative functionality. So the Enterprise Edition, really the difference between that and the QuickSight Standard Edition, which is still available, is that the Enterprise Edition is really about the dissemination and publishing of reports and dashboards out to a large audience, whether that's 10 users or whether that's 10,000 users, and giving you all the tools and the controls to manage that publishing environment. Whereas the standard edition there is no concept of a reader. Everybody inside of the standard edition is an author. They have full functionality and access to all the features inside of QuickSight. And the cost for them is a fixed monthly rate of $9 a user a month if you're paying annually, or $12 a user a month if you're paying month to month. And that really is, the standard edition is really more for those small teams of 5 to 10 to 20 users, where they're all essentially power users and are in there digging in the data and doing their own analysis and collaborating with each other, less so creating and sharing out to a consumption-only audience. So just as an example of a customer deployment, Rio Tinto, which is one of the largest mining companies in the world, is using QuickSight actively now with the reader role as a way to put dashboards around the safety metrics of their mines out into the hands of all of the site managers across all of their mines globally. So we're talking thousands of users having access to a wide variety of relevant reports and dashboards that are being published through QuickSight, that are connected, that allow them to filter to their specific site, to drill on specific metrics, et cetera, and have all that functionality and all that interactivity. But again, only paying for them as readers, and they're only paying for them when they access those dashboards and those content. And it's customers like Rio that have that really helped us understand these types of deployments and create a pricing concept that we feel really fits the way that that data disseminates out to a large-scale user audience inside of an organization. So the last thing I want to talk about before we go to Q&A is the QuickSight team, both the product team and the technical consultant team, are going to be out on tour this summer. We'll be making T-shirts and posters. If you are in any of these regions or cities in North America and you'd like to come see us, we're going to be there during these dates. Feel free to reach out to your AWS account rep and let them know that you'd like to attend, and we'll be putting out information with more detail about those events. I just wanted to let you know, if you're in any of these cities and you actually want to come meet the QuickSight product or technical team to learn more about the product, we're going to have hands-on workshops and trainings and do some answers, talk a little bit about where the product is going and some of the roadmap. We would love to see you out there and meet you and hear about how you're using the product, and answer questions and learn more from you, so we continue to evolve the product to fit your needs. And with that, I'll take a pause and we'll move over to Q&A. And again, if you have more questions about the QuickSight pricing model with a reader, the reader pricing, you can visit the QuickSight website. It's quicksite.aws/pricing, and you'll be able to see the different pricing models there, as well as a feature comparison between the standard edition and the enterprise edition, and what are the different features between those two to help you make that choice.